It's going to be okay.
Let's turn the volume up.
I am. It is.
They seem to have louder volume, and sometimes I don't. I don't know what it is.
You just let us know when you're ready to go.
Right. Angela, can you provide the dial-in number? Because the voice over IP on my Mac isn't working so great.
Talk again, Angela.
Or try again, please.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh.
Roger, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Very nice.
Hey, that was good.
Beautiful. All right, we're all set. Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
You've been up all night, Roy?
I've been having fun. The iPad app isn't working.
World of work right now. Conventional.
I decided I hate Datamax.
I think we're waiting on Mariah. Just a minute or so.
Yeah, I can't see. We can't see here who's on the call, so we can't tell if she's on just yet.
I don't see her just yet.
All righty.
Are you getting on? I texted. Text probably didn't work for you. Try this text number. You're ready. It is 426-720-834. Thank you. Bye.
I have to jump if Jim comes back with Kevin.
I didn't know Jim was here. I didn't know Jim was here. They're doing a orchard tour.
Yeah, no, he was getting some pictures on some potential collateral. And him and I needed to talk for a couple hours.
So the new web ID number that you gave us will be for the remainder of the sessions. Is that correct?
No, there's going to be separate numbers for each session.
All righty.
I've got it.
Roy says he has them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because of the varying times on the different days, Dan, I then set up separate IDs for each day.
No problem. Thanks for rescheduling, by the way.
Much better.
Okay, Mariah is here.
Okay, we're ready. We're ready on our end as well.
We can start.
Great.
Today's topic is farm management, farm level P&L. And with that, I will turn the session over to our presenter, Ms. Pat House. Ms. Pat, it is all yours. Okay, thanks, Kathy. We're going to do a course a little bit like we did yesterday. It's going to be fairly high level, and if we need to get into more details like the master files, we'll have to put up the dash and questions, so we can get that at a later time. And first of all, this is the farm management main menu, and as we mentioned yesterday, some of the files are shared between the regular sales and ops file, like the master file, the location file. But we're going to start with the processing functions. The goal in farm management is to be able to record all the expenses that are related to the orchard and by variety. And then also be able to, at some point, get all the revenue in. And there's a couple methodologies that we can discuss on the revenue piece of it. So we'll start with the expense side. First of all, that would be under the processing functions menu. Sorry. And of course, labor is a huge component of any of the orchard activities that are going to take place. Currently, most of our clients are doing interfaces with their payroll to update the labor section. They no longer manually enter it because it's time consuming and it's almost double entry between payroll and farm management. So they interface with payroll so that they can get all the information, including taxes and kind of accruals for vacation, that type of thing. But we'll look at one of the screens just to data.
Pat, can you hold on 1 second, please? I think Brooke has a question.
And of course, it has the information.
Pat?
Oh,
I think Brooke has a question.
Is anybody using this that has that uses your guys' payroll? So, and is that integrated?
Does anybody use this with your integrated payroll currently?
Not with and payroll.
Is their payroll integrated?
Is there another payroll package that is integrated?
No,
with
no,
it?
no, 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 no.
Is their package?
Is the N2N payroll package integrated with farm management?
Not at this time. We were working towards that, but none of the clients that had payroll and used farm management needed it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm getting some back feed. I don't know if it's my phone or somebody else.
No, I'm sure it's this. We're doing voice over IP on the Mac. If you can provide the conference call-in number, we'd be more than happy to call in that way. It's probably a whole lot better. Hold on, maybe it's up here already.
It is.
You click on the telephone. It'll,
Click on the telephone.
use telephone.
Where the hell is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No.
Please enter your access. To enable audio controls, please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash. There are 12 other callers on the call.
Hello.
Hello.
That should be 100% better.
It's much better from my end. Everybody else okay? Yeah, we're good, Pat. All right, great. So clearly, since it's farm management, the information that we want to obtain is our season, our grower, the entity, just like your current grower entity master. And as I mentioned yesterday, you do have an opportunity to enter the grower entity by section as well as another further breakdown. Now, for farm management, section is not required. It can be here or it's optional based on the flag that you set in your company control master. And then, of course, the district type varieties so that we can accumulate the information based on each of the varieties that may or may not be in a particular entity. The billing code, as we mentioned yesterday, is set up so that it can group the type of activities that you take care of in the field, in the orchard. And these are user defined. You identify the categories and the functions that you choose for definition. And as you can see here, we have, for example, the bloom and pre-bloom like we talked about yesterday. But the functions are different within the pre-bloom so that there's multiple types of functions that occur during each of the particular time periods in the system. And the F4 works for that. Again, if it's interfaced, all it will do is check to make sure that the billing codes that are in the payroll interface match up to what's in the system. The labor codes or definitions, also user defined, and they identify what type of labor is occurring. And again, these are self-defined. You can, we try to find some of them that are typical for the industry and put them in. The power equipment is also a master file. And this master file talks about what kind of power of equipment we have in our equipment master. And you'll notice that we have equipment types that are P for power and I for implement. So the field that we'd be looking at right here would be the power equipment, which is to say that you need to have some type of equipment that is got a motor on it, so to speak. And the implement are the pieces or the sections that go behind and help you things like spray. When we set up the power equipment, we can say that the power equipment that is here requires an implement so that if this was a manual entry and implements required, it would force us to make sure that there was an entry in the equipment so that we could track the time on it. The system does not do the depreciation, but it's a methodology of tracking hours
associated with the equipment that you have in the field. You'll notice that there's pieces here because we can also do piecework for those items where there might be some hand work that's being done in the orchard, or if you're paying your pickers by piece. The pieces would go in here, and then the hours. If it was piece rate, we would want to put in the rate per piece, and that could be part of your master file setup as well. Now, one of our clients currently doesn't put in actual information. They actually use standard rates. And we have master files that provide the opportunity for you to set up standard rates for your power equipment and your implement equipment, sort of like how much it would cost you per hour based on a depreciation schedule to utilize that equipment. That's not required, but it can be included if you want it to be. Is there any questions on this type of information for labor that you have right now?
I don't think so at this point, Pat. We're good.
Okay, cool. We're going to go on then to the next area, which is the materials, the chemicals that are added into the system that you need to utilize. And again, we're going to use an example here that we have in the system. And each one of the distributions that we program in here has to have a distribution control number. This is somewhat similar to your order number and order processing that's unique to the system, never duplicated, and the user has the ability to either have the system generate this number or you can assign it yourself. And of course, there's a date entered, the date that the transaction actually occurred, the location of which it occurred. Typically, all of the growers are set up, the fields are set up with a location in the system because there's inventory and we want to maintain inventory by location. The approved by is not a required field, but can be entered in the remarks section. And again, you'll notice we have our season grower entity harvest section, the irrigation section that we talked about yesterday that's optional for you to set up as well. The district type and variety, and perhaps a sub-variety. Again, you'll notice the billing code. The billing code is one of the keys in being able to group information in terms of expenses. So that you can break it down and look at it by the type of category it is and the functions within that category.
Pat, can you talk about the location a little bit more, please?
Sure. The location master that you all are probably familiar with by setting up for your packing houses. Typically, our clients use location master also for the growers because there's information that would be for inventory purposes for your materials or chemicals. And so as we're using these, first we'd have a purchase order that brings that in to have our inventory updated. Then we'll use the inventory of your chemicals during this entry here. And then, of course, have a balance. So it's the methodology of using all of the material master and then our materials inventory to keep track of chemicals so that you have a complete tracking of what's going on in which particular farm.
So the location is the same location master file
Yes, sir.
with the 3 components, Exchange, Association, Packing House?
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those could reference directly back to an individual grower?
Yes, sir.
All right. Please don't call me sir.
Sorry.
No problem. Ma'am.
Just habit.
Appreciate that. All right, thanks. Boy, that's going to be an awful
You're
lot
welcome.
of potential growers in the system at the location level. Oh
The
my word.
material master file, we'll take a peek at that. It's actually made up of 4 components, and we're going to look at the one we have here, chemical, I think it was a 7 hero 2. And the chemical, as you can see here, we have the same chemical listed throughout the master file here. One of the blank location was conserved Well, and then separate locations. You'll notice that we have different locations that are set up here on that. So as the farms or the orchards are utilizing the materials, we are tracking the inventory as it's received and as it's used. It also allows you to have specific setup by account numbers. You'll notice that we have here our chemicals and then the materials type code. Now, a lot of the clients with them, they'll have farm for the type code or maybe packing house if they're using materials in the packing house with the bill of materials that we'll be talking about tomorrow. And again, you'll see the location, and here we have the information that's more descriptive as opposed to a code, and that shows up on a lot of the reports. The materials also has an opportunity for us to have all the account information in here so that we can do journals every month, just like you do a sales journal or the cash receipts journal. You can have a journal set up for it. You'll also notice the standard cost that's set up in the master file. This might be what your budgeted cost is for this chemical after you've done your negotiations with your suppliers. And we also have an opportunity to look at who our default vendors are and what kind of inventory quantities we want to maintain. There's also an opportunity to put in material specs. The reason I'm going over this a lot is because
It's my cell phone.
So what
and
happens?
so you may use a chemical that has the same name, i.e. say Roundup, but it would be done on several different active chemical levels depending on what your application needs are at that time. You'll also notice that there's a section in here that relates to the type of product you may or may not use. I know that a lot of companies are already getting information on their restricted usage information, so we're not trying to duplicate what those companies provide in terms of keeping practicing and making suggestions to you, but it does give you an opportunity to put some of the basic information in for your chemicals. The units are put in, and then the cost rate actually comes from the materials inventory file, and we'll look at that in a minute. This cost rate comes in. This is the weighted average cost based at the time that you make the entry. So in this particular instance that we have as an example, we have our grower top line in his entity 2, and we have these different activities that are occurring during this time period. Now, one of the areas, and do you guys have any questions on that for a minute, or no?
All set here.
Okay, there's one of the newer pieces that we have here I want to go to for a second, and this is display the accounts payable to farm management transactions. And during accounts payable entry, you have an opportunity on the distribution line if you're using farm management to put in a code that indicates that this belongs to a farm management grower entity. And when you fill in that information, it comes over and updates the files for farm management. And over here, you can see a display if that information, if you choose to. You cannot enter it because it belongs to accounts payable. But it does provide you the information that was entered under 18 if you want to take a look at it. This helps it be more inclusive to get all of the expenses over into farm management. The next piece that I wanted to talk about is called our miscellaneous transaction entry. And this one I'm going to go over to a different screen for a minute. And on this one, this has a newer area that we've been working on. And what that'll, oops, I can't change it. I can display it for you because it's been fed to GL. It has batch numbers similar to other batch miscellaneous entries, but you'll notice it kind of looks like a regular journal entry from the general ledger, except that some of the detail lines have your grower information on it. It also has units and equivalent units. So if you're inclined from your general ledger, let's say that you've made journal entries into GL that are actually recording expenses, albeit they may not be AP, they may not be chemical, they may not be labor, but you need to allocate that across to your different grower entities. You can use this new miscellaneous transaction entry, and you can have detail lines that include growers and then have detail lines that do not. So it's kind of a hybrid of a journal entry. It also has the ability to set this up as an accrual. So at the end of the month, you may need to do this as an accrual entry, and you can set the reversal period as well. And this has come in real handy for us. Now, all three of these types of entries can be uploaded via Excel. Rather than doing manual entries, you can do Excel spreadsheets and then upload it through IFS. And originally the unposted would display on the screen, and you'd see the batch numbers. The batch numbers, of course, are unique, so that we can keep track of them. And then we also have, they can be a journal type, they can be labor, they can be miscellaneous, they could be materials. And I'm just going to show you quickly one of the details as it comes in. And it gives you the detail lines that were on your Excel spreadsheet, and then you can see all of the information that was on your row on the Excel spreadsheet. Excuse me just a minute. Sorry. This shows your account numbers, and I don't know if you've noticed or not, Brooke and Mariah, in your account numbers, there is an option currently that says if an account number is allowed a grower entry just like this, or if it's required, or if it's optional. So that's another way of maintaining consistency and making sure there's no errors in the system. Of course, your growers, your district variety, the billing code, the debit amount and the credit amount, and you'll notice again the units and the equivalent units. And if it's an accrual, and then what period do we want it to reverse in? Do we have any questions on those?
Brooke has one.
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's just leaning in. All set here.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to flip back over to our other sessions now for a little bit. When we were talking about the material inventory, there's an option in farm management. Here, I'm going to skip over sugarcane. I don't think we'll be using that one. The material inventory entry can be entered manually. This is kind of a, I always say dangerous to allow any visitors into here because it does indeed update your inventory. But you can see from here the type of information that the system is generating. For example, here's floor count, which is done from a physical inventory, which the system does. The receipt is from the purchase orders. The usage is from our material distribution that we just looked at. And then we see future receipts for purchase orders where we have not yet received the product that's on order. So this kind of gives you a little view of it, but letting people just haphazardly go in here and enter information by not using the journals, this does not update your GL as the other entries do. And of course, mentioning physical inventory, we have the material physical inventory so that if you choose to do inventory counts at the end of the month for all of your chemicals, you can do so by location. We have count sheets that can be distributed. And do we want to have a current count print? Would we give it to the fellows to do a inventory count or not? And as I mentioned, it's by location. You just run it like this, and it's ready for you. You go in quite quickly, and in this case, these are the chemicals that we've used since the last physical inventory. And this is showing what the system, because of how I ran it, this is what the system says it is. But if I chose to, I could say, oh no, I really only have 3,000 or 300 of these items. And it takes it, you hit S10 accept, and now you have a work file to begin doing your physical inventory for the end of the month. You can have two teams, as you can see here, as a team comparison. And then option 10 provides a report that shows you what was entered as the actual versus what the system assumed was the answer for your values and count. And once you finalize that, it also creates a journal entry that will feed over to your GL to update your expenses for your materials. And it will also update the inventory master file. So that's how we get all of the expenses into the system. Do you have any questions on those at the moment?
What's the weather entry thing?
The weather entry allows you to do an entry during the time period of when you're doing your distribution, like when you're applying chemicals and say the wind is high and how much rain you are getting, and it may assist you in knowing if you're going to have to turn around and do it more quickly because it was raining and chemicals went off. And it gives you an idea of what was occurring during that time period. Trying to use informationally for you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. The next section, I just wanted to show you real quickly the purchase orders. For the purchase orders, you'll see that it has the same format we can have for the material. And it tells us the account number. This account number comes from the master file, which we just looked at, and of course the location so that we can track it. And until this is received, this would also be one of those items where we saw future receipts. So that in looking at reports, you would know it's coming and you might not want to reorder it at this point. So I just wanted to show you that quickly. And are you familiar with the payables processing or anything with the purchase orders?
I think I'm okay there. If anybody else wants to see it, they need to pipe up. But I'm all right. Brooke's okay.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure.
All right, thanks.
The farm management report option. Some of these, as you can see, sugarcane specifically for them. We have a field cost analysis report that can be run that gives you information based on the season, the grower, the district type, the variety, and how much money has been spent on that field based on all the entries you've made between labor and the distribution. We also have the time card transaction report, but that's really nothing more than a way to check your data entry if you were doing manual time card entry into that labor transaction. You can have a timesheet report which shows the time that each employee has information into the system. The employee roster report is a report that lists all the employees that you have based on the master file in the system for employees so that you can track them as well. It's not a full-blown HR master file for employees, but it gives all of the distinct information you need to know for them to be working in the field. The material distribution
That's your phone, right?
The summary job cost sheet also provides a lot of information based on the entities, the crop years, the dates and plant date could be from your master file, your grower entity master file that we talked about when you put a yes in for farm management. You may be interested in what kind of costs you had during the harvest date range or a current date range. And the reason it has included only open fields is that you can, as you know, have grower entity records that have been marked as closed or inactive. And then, of course, you can have summary or detail depending on what type of report you want to see. The option 11, material inventory inquiry report, this is basically the same report that you can have in sales and ops if you're using the material inventory, especially with the bombs that we'll be looking at tomorrow. And it shares the same file. You can look at it in summary or detail. It's an inquiry report or one that is printable. You'll notice that it lists the different chemicals that have usage. They have floor count. It shows receipts that have come in from purchase orders. It shows usage or any adjustments that have occurred. The adjustments would be based on your physical inventory counts, and then the current level of inventory and the current average cost in the system at this time. You can also change your view with the F11 that's at the bottom of the screen. And it brings forward the current inventory, shows you future receipts, and also some projected usage that's out there that has not yet been utilized. So you can see what kind of projected inventory you're looking at if you're putting together a purchase order or an order to your suppliers for chemicals.
Hey, Pat.
The month-end menu
Pat,
provides you the opportunity. Yes.
can you go back to that reports menu? Please. Can you pull up the field cost analysis?
Oh, the field cost analysis report?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have any data in there? Can we take a peek at what it looks like?
Sure. Let's run it for 2008.
Okay.
I'm just going to run it wide open.
Okay.
We're going to look at all of the fields that are active. And well, the overprint isn't going to display as well. I could send it to you via an Excel package after this session if you'd like to, so you can see it better.
That'd be great.
But it shows the fields. It shows you what was in labor, the tractor, the implement, the direct materials, which is the distribution we looked at, and the total costs that have been occurring.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Where were the notes? To just send that to you after the session.
All righty.
Okie doke. The month end, where we were. The labor equipment implement journal is only used if you actually are manually entering the labor transactions. The interfaces that we have currently, the interface marks it as fed to general ledger so that you don't have a duplicate between the payroll updating and farm management updating. So that's not used if you use the interface. The distribution journal is exactly the one based on those materials that we looked at a few minutes ago. And you can see it looks very much like our regular journals from sales and ops. It has the location, the period, the season, approved mode, post to GL, yes or no, and then a journal description. And it does all the same edits that the sales and operations journals do. Looks at the count numbers, make sure that they're valid, doesn't feed incorrect, out of balance information, same type of process. I'd like to show you, for the miscellaneous one, I'd like to show you that entry on here. This is some of the newer information that we have. You'll notice that we have the particular batch numbers in here. It tells you that it's a miscellaneous. It tells you who the user was that created the journal, the date it was entered, what transaction period it was using, and a transaction season, and then a batch type. And that is because on those miscellaneous entries that I showed you, you can create a journal entry that updates farm management units only without having dollars on it, so that if for some reason there was particular units that you wanted to have updated in farm management for your volume, you could update it through that. These particular entries do not feed to GL. If it's a unit only journal, it will not feed to GL. It's informational within the farm management system. The B stands for both, where there would be both units and dollars, and then the dollars and the account numbers will feed to GL, and of course the grower information will stay within the farm management system. The other opportunity we have here is that on a one-by-one basis, these can have proofs done and feeds to GL done on each one of these without having to do all or nothing. To give you an opportunity to take a look at each of them and make sure you like them in proof mode before they actually do the feed to GL. The variance field overhead entry was written to be able to take a look at, and this was before we actually had the miscellaneous journal entry. And what it allowed you to do was enter information on overhead journal entries that may occur in your general ledger and then allocate it across to the different growers. So this one is really not a function that you really need to utilize now that we have that miscellaneous journal that's so functional and gives you a lot of flexibility. Sugarcane upload, of course, you don't need. The month-end transaction proration can be utilized still today. It's in the grower entity master. When you turn on yes for farm management, you're going to find that there's fields that allow you to set up that grower as a master grower or a child. And there's also was a precursor to the flexibility allowed with the miscellaneous journal and the Excel upload, but it allows you to take costs that may have been recorded to a, quote, master grower entity district type and allocate it to sections. Where we have the section set up, it can allocate that based on acreage into the farm management. The transaction proration reversal is, oops. When I did the month-end transaction proration, I was wrong. I need to finish up doing some things, and so it reverses everything you did so that you can go back and do 5 again if you needed to make your transaction. And the recap proration of acres is an option where some of our clients found that when they originally enter a grower entity and their acres, they find out later that those acres may have been in a state that they estimated it incorrectly by the time they got room actually doing a planting. They might have had 10 acres as opposed to the 9 that they originally put in. And this allows the system to go back and update any cost per acre based on the recalculation of acres that's in the grower entity master. And the miscellaneous journal we just looked at, that takes us to the post-farm management sales. And this is where we talk about the revenue that comes in from farm management. There's actually a couple of ways to do that. And Kathy, we may want to just have a kind of overview discussion. One of the methodologies that's used today is to utilize the sales journal, and one of the sales journal files has account information that also has grower information in it. And based on those account numbers, we set up a billing code that utilizes those same account numbers, and so the system pulls information from the sales journal with the grower information based on the specific account numbers that match the billing code, and then update our management with the billing code, the account numbers, the grower entity, the district type variety. The upload here is not as specific because it's sales that may occur without pallets. I guess is the best way to say that. It was utilized when a client did not have pallets and they were only updating based on total for a particular sales order. And for that, for moving forward with you guys, we'd probably like to talk to you about the best way to handle getting revenue into farm management for your P&L. I think, Stan, you may remember that originally we did have some Cognos reports that would indicate sales and then offset that against the revenue. And the Cognos reporting is really the best way, in my mind, to be able to have the flexibility to look at all kinds of sales, all the growers, breaking it down, by being able to slice and dice, if you will, from total sales at a grower level or from a district type variety type of information. So that would probably be the most complete way of looking at the P&Ls for the growers. Kathy, do you have any input on that?
No, I think like you say, Pat, we would just need to probably sit down with Brooke or whomever to kind of walk through that and see what would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So kind of in a nutshell, that's farm management.
Pat, based on what you showed us yesterday and today, I can see where you could go out and plant a new field with your different labor codes and etc. But is there any kind of, I don't know, lack of a better term, mapping so that you can see what blocks are going to get planted with what variety, etc.? I mean, you might have a 10-acre plot of land and you're going to plant 4 or 5 different varieties, etc. Anything like that?
Not specifically, Sam.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I was just writing some notes, but I think I'm okay.
Okay.
And just so I'm clear,
Roy,
there,
anybody else?
Yeah, the only question I wanted to clear up, just to make sure, currently there is no tie-in between this and the Kirky payroll system.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we noted, Chris and I noted that that would be one of the things we would need to look into for you guys because of the some of the things that Sonia and Jody told us about the orchard side.
Right.
Is that, you know, that might be something we need to do in order to post some of the transactions, you know, at the grower level.
Understood. We're okay here in this conference room. I don't know about if there's anybody else on the line, Mariah, etc.
Okay.
Beautiful.
If everybody's set, then thank you for your time today. And now, do you guys, if there was confusion today, do you guys have the meeting request for tomorrow's session? And tomorrow's at 4 p.m., right? 4 p.m. our time, 1 p.m. your time.
Right.
It is 1 p.m. our time. I was just looking at my calendar. I think when we were deleting and moving and everything, somehow they got out of sync. So if you'd resend it to me, then I can burst it out to everybody.
Okay. All right, will do.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Beautiful.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So that term out of sync, the fancy IT word for I lost the doggone thing you sent me. Okay. Okay. Just trying to keep up with the times.
Okay. All right.
Boy, it just looks